Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time, we're unlocking the secrets of body language.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It is, right?
Right.
And you all sent in some fascinating sources. We have this psychology book in Arabic
Oh,
and
wow.
some excerpts about personality types.
Interesting.
I know. And it's going to be a really fun deep dive, I think.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Me too. Me too. Um, so body language, like a whole secret conversation happening beneath the surface,
And
right?
it really is. We're constantly communicating without even realizing it.
So true.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm curious what jumped out at you from these sources.
Well, one thing that really struck me is this idea of body language as a fingerprint of personality. It can reveal so much about a person's subconscious thoughts and feelings.
Like a hidden language, basically.
Exactly. And just like a fingerprint, each person's body language is unique.
So by learning to read those subtle cues, we can gain a deeper understanding of the people around us. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like getting a glimpse into their inner world?
That's so cool. Now, the source material mentioned some fascinating examples, like how holding hands can actually reveal power dynamics in a relationship.
Oh, that's a great one. It's true. The way people hold hands can speak volumes about who's taking the lead, so to speak.
I would have never even thought of that. See, this is why I love these deep dives. It's all about those hidden meanings.
Exactly. We're uncovering the subtle ways we communicate without words.
Okay, so what other gems did you uncover in the book? What else really stood out?
Well, the book goes into detail about the three primary states of the face: performance, concealment, and stillness. It argues that by understanding these states, we can get a better read on what people are really thinking and feeling, whether they're aware of it or not.
So performance is like the face we put on for the world.
Exactly. It's the persona we present in social situations, the mask we wear to project a certain image.
Okay, I get that. The curated self.
Yeah.
And then concealment is when we try to hide our true emotions.
Right. Like when you plaster on a smile even though you're feeling totally stressed.
Oh, I've done that plenty of times. But the book says even when we think we're masters of disguise, there are these things called micro-expressions that can betray our true feelings.
Yeah. Microexpressions are these fleeting facial expressions. They last for just a fraction of a second, and they often reveal emotions that we're trying to suppress.
So even if someone's trying to keep a poker face, their true feelings might flash across their face for a split second.
Wow. Exactly. And those microexpressions can be incredibly revealing.
But if they happen so fast, how can we even spot them?
It takes practice. But with careful observation, you can start to pick up on these subtle cues. The more you pay attention, the more attuned you become to the nuances of facial
You
expression.
start to notice the little things.
Exactly, like a slight tightening of the lips or a quick furrow of the brow. These tiny movements can actually tell us a lot about what someone's really thinking or feeling.
This is fascinating. I feel like I need to start recording all my conversations and play them back in slow motion just to catch all those micro expressions.
Uh-huh. You might be surprised at what you find.
I bet. Okay, so we've talked about facial expressions, but the book also delves into the connection between personality and some pretty unexpected things.
Right, like our food preferences, our handwriting, even our sleeping positions.
That's the stuff that always gets me hooked. I'm all ears. So, for example, what might someone's love for spicy food reveal about their personality?
Well, according to the book, a preference for spicy food often suggests a more adventurous and thrill-seeking personality. They're drawn to intense experiences, not afraid to push their boundaries.
Oh, so interesting. So it's like they crave that same intensity in their lives.
Makes sense.
It does, it does. So let's flip the script. What about someone who prefers milder flavors?
Well, the book suggests that people who lean towards blander foods might be more cautious and reserved. They value stability, predictability. They're not big risk takers, generally.
So if I'm on a date and my companion orders the hottest curry on the menu, should I brace myself for an adventurous evening?
You might want to buckle up.
Haha. This is so much fun. I love it. Okay, let's get back to this idea of body language as a fingerprint of personality. You mentioned that earlier. Can we unpack that a little more?
Sure. Basically, while individual gestures can mean different things in different contexts, it's the overall pattern of nonverbal cues that reveals the most about a person.
So we need to look at the whole picture, not just isolated gestures. Makes sense. But how do we do that? What should we focus on?
Well, posture is always a good place to start.
Right, because someone standing tall with their shoulders back probably feels pretty confident, while someone who's slouching might be feeling more insecure.
Exactly, you're getting it.
And then, of course, we have the hands. They can be super expressive, right?
Oh, absolutely. The hands are like a whole language in themselves. Clenched fists, fidgeting, drumming fingers, they can all reveal a lot about a person's emotional state.
So if I'm in a meeting and someone's tapping their fingers on the table, maybe they're bored or disagreeing with what's being said.
It's possible. Or they might just be impatient. That's why context is so important. We can't just interpret these gestures in isolation.
You're right. You're right. It's all about putting the pieces together. Right.
Precisely.
This is so fascinating. It's like we're peeling back the layers of communication and revealing this whole hidden world of meaning.
And we're just getting started.
I know. I can't wait to dive even deeper. Let's talk about some specific personality types and how their body language might give them away.
Ooh, yes. Let's explore the world of introverts and extroverts next. I'm really intrigued by what the source material had to say about them.
I'm ready to unlock those secrets.
Let's do it. All right, let's unlock the secrets of introverts and extroverts.
Let's do it. So first things first, when we talk about introverts and extroverts, we're really talking about how people recharge their batteries, right?
Exactly. It's about where they get their energy from. Introverts typically gain energy from spending time alone, while extroverts are energized by social interaction.
Right, right. So how does this difference in energy source play out in their body language?
Well, you often see it in their posture and how they interact with space. Introverts, for instance, might exhibit more closed-off body language in large groups.
Like what, specifically?
Maybe they'll cross their arms or lean back slightly. It's almost like they're creating a little buffer zone around themselves.
Little personal space bubble.
Exactly. And it's not necessarily because they're unfriendly or antisocial. It's more about regulating their energy intake.
Right, they're just trying to manage all that stimulation. Whereas extroverts, on the other hand, they're fueled by social interaction, so their body language tends to be more open and expansive, right?
Totally. They might lean forward when they're engaged in conversation, make a lot of eye contact, use more animated gestures. It's like they're drawing energy from the people around them.
Like a social butterfly, flitting from person to person, soaking it all up.
Exactly. And knowing these differences can help us understand and interact with introverts and extroverts more effectively.
That's a good point. So, for example, if you're trying to connect with an introvert, what's the best approach?
Well, the key is to respect their need for space and quiet. Don't bombard them with questions or force them into the spotlight.
Right, give them time to warm up.
Exactly. Create a comfortable, low-key environment where they can open up at their own pace.
And if you're interacting with an extrovert,
Well, be ready for more energy. They might talk more, gesture more, take up more space.
so don't be afraid to engage. Ask questions, let the conversation flow.
Exactly. They thrive on interaction, so don't hold back. Now, the source material also touched on a related idea that I found interesting.
Okay, tell me more.
It's the difference between what are called high reactors and low reactors.
Oh, that's new to me. What's that all about?
It basically describes how intensely people react to stimuli.
Like sensory input, emotional stuff, that
Yeah, exactly that. High reactors are more sensitive to their surroundings. They might startle easily, get overwhelmed by strong emotions, that sort of thing.
So they're very in tune with everything that's going on around them.
Exactly. It's like their senses are always on high alert.
And what about low reactors?
Low reactors are, well, less reactive. They might appear more calm and collected under pressure.
They're the cool cucumbers, the ones who don't sweat the small stuff.
That's a good way to put it. And it's not that one type is better than the other. It's just about recognizing these differences and understanding how they influence our interactions with the world.
I love that. It's all about self-awareness, right? Understanding your own tendencies and how they shape your experiences.
Absolutely. And recognizing that other people might experience the world very differently than we do.
That's such an important point. It's all about empathy, ultimately, right?
Totally. Okay, now, I don't want to forget about all those fun connections the source material made between personality and things like food preferences and sleeping positions.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Those quirky little correlations. Let's talk about those.
Right. So, remind me, what was the personality link to those who love spicy food?
Okay, so according to the book, spicy food lovers are often adventurous, thrill-seeking types, always up for a challenge.
Sounds about right. What about those with a sweet tooth? What secrets might their dessert choices be revealing?
Well, if the book is to be believed, those who crave sweets are likely to be more agreeable and nurturing, the kind of people who are always there to lend a hand.
So sweet. Literally.
And what about those who can't resist salty snacks?
The book suggests that salt cravers might be more ambitious and driven, with a competitive edge.
So watch out for those chip munchers. They might just be plotting world domination.
Haha, exactly. Okay, now for sleeping positions, this is where things get really interesting.
I know, it's like our subconscious personalities are playing out in our sleep.
Right, so the book describes those who prefer the fetal position, curled up on their side, as being more sensitive and emotional.
Like they're seeking comfort and security.
Exactly. What about those who sleep sprawled out on their backs?
Back sleepers. The book says they tend to be more confident and self-assured.
Interesting. Makes sense, right? They're comfortable taking up space.
It's like their body language is speaking even when they're asleep.
Exactly. Haha. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. What are some key takeaways our listener can apply to their own lives? How can we use this knowledge to improve our communication and relationships?
That's a great question. I think it all starts with awareness, right? Being more mindful of our own body language and the messages we might be sending.
Absolutely. For example, if you're constantly slouching or avoiding eye contact, you might be conveying a lack of confidence, even if you don't feel that way.
Right. So step one is to pay attention to our own nonverbal cues. What about interpreting other people's body language? Any tips for our listeners?
I'd say the most important thing is to remember that body language is just one piece of the puzzle. Don't oversimplify things or jump to conclusions based on isolated gestures.
Like assuming everyone who loves spicy food is a daredevil.
Exactly. It's essential to consider the context, the person's baseline behavior, all of that. And if you're ever unsure about something, just ask.
Right. Sometimes a simple question can clear up so much confusion.
It's true. Communication is key. Ultimately, the goal of understanding body language is to enhance our communication and deepen our connections with others.
It's about seeing beyond the words, right? Understanding those unspoken messages and responding with empathy and awareness.
Exactly. It's about bridging that gap between the verbal and nonverbal.
I love that. This has been such a fascinating deep dive. We've covered so much ground, and I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too. It's amazing how much information we convey without ever saying a word.
So true. Before we wrap up, is there one final thought or key takeaway you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the biggest takeaway is to remember that body language isn't an exact science.
Right. We can't just assume we can read people's minds based on a few crossed arms or a furrowed brow.
Exactly. It's tempting to oversimplify things, but human communication is way more complex than that.
Like we were talking about those fun personality correlations earlier, but we have to remember those are just general tendencies, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not everyone who loves spicy food is an adrenaline junkie.
Right. Context is everything. We have to look at the whole picture, the situation, the person's overall demeanor, all of that.
And if you're ever unsure about something, don't be afraid to just ask.
Oh, yeah, that's so important. Communication is key.
Absolutely. Sometimes we overthink things, trying to decode all these hidden messages when the answer might be right there on the surface.
So true. A simple question can go a long way.
It really can. But even with those caveats in mind, learning about body language can be a really valuable tool.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's made me so much more aware of my own nonverbal cues, and I'm definitely paying more attention to what other people are communicating with their bodies, too.
I think that's the first step to becoming a better communicator. Just being more aware.
And the more we practice, the more intuitive it becomes, right?
Exactly. You start to notice those subtle cues, those patterns in behavior.
It's like learning a whole new language, the language of nonverbal communication.
And who knows, maybe it'll even help us navigate those tricky social situations a little more smoothly.
Uh-huh. I could definitely use some help with that. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the fascinating world of body language, what's your final thought for our listeners? What do you want them to take away from this conversation?
I would say keep observing, keep learning, keep exploring. The world of nonverbal communication is constantly evolving.
I love that. Body language is a never-ending conversation, so keep those eyes peeled and those minds open, everyone.
Exactly. Until next time, happy decoding.
And remember, sometimes the most powerful messages are the ones spoken without a single word.